misinformation and disinformation is carrying people to believe things that are untrue. And therefore, while not forcing anyone to get vaccinated, the bottom line, proof of vaccination will be required by no later than the end of this month for all federal employees. And by mid-November, enforcement measures in place will make sure that everyone is vaccinated.
And that's all I have to say about that. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen across our beautiful country of Canada, our friends south of the border in the United States of America, further south, Mexico, Central America, South America, across the pond to all of Africa, Europe, Middle East, Asia, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Ukraine, Russia, everybody. It is the 3rd day of May 2021, and I took a break from news to see the beauty of nature. That's captured by me on a Sony A7 V with, I think I had got a 200-500 lens on it. I'm just starting to learn about still camera and, well, it takes video also, but learning to use the camera and what it's capable of and what it's not. And so far, very impressed, although I do know that for any moving videos, I'll probably be using the AX53 or AX900 or AX2000. I got a lot of choices to make. Oh, I've even added a GoPro to the collection, which I have to hook up to, film where we go, what we're doing. A lot of choices. And it's a great distraction away from what is happening in our world. And there's always a lot going on. Like today, the 3rd of May, we start the day with news from Atlanta, Georgia. Oh yeah, we didn't go to Atlanta when we were in the States, but we were close by, heading to Florida. Anyhow, there's a shooter. A shooter loose in Atlanta, and people have been hospitalized, one fatality. That's, plastered all over the American news. Canadian news has their panties up their butts over Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh and alleged threats on him or his family or whatever. That's even what the House of Commons was about. Now, if you got a way to compare things, I've been saying for a long time that all this is distraction. Do you think the Conservatives care about these issues? No, they're playing political games. Just a week ago or so, it had to do with Trudeau's vacation. Oh my God, he went on vacation in Jamaica, and do you know how much it cost? And there were donors to the Liberal Party involved, and oh my gosh, all these non-issues. What I want to know is, when is digital currency coming up, what it's going to do for our finances. What I want to know is how the West is going to react to what's happening globally, which is all the other countries, except the ones that can be bribed or scared into it, are abandoning the West. They're abandoning the US dollar. They're going into different currencies. And we're not talking about Mickey Mouse places. Saudi Arabia is a big oil producer. They're joining with the BRICS and joining China. There's so many events. The war in Ukraine. We're not even supposed to talk about the history of Ukraine, let's put it that way, mildly. But we who have looked it up can find lots of references, even on Canadian news, pre-war, so pre the Ukraine-Russia conflict, mentioning that Ukraine had a lot of, well, ultra-left, far-left people in it. And Ukraine was, well, it doesn't matter what Ukraine was. The same thing is happening everywhere. And then we got idiots.
But we have 1,000 billionaires in America. You know the average tax rate they pay? 8%. 8%. 8%. 8%. And by the way, you know, I may be a white boy, but I'm not stupid.
Well, that's open for discussion, Mr. Biden. But like I said, it's happening all around us. People are not waking up. They're shuttering themselves away from it. And I understand why when you see this.
He calls decent, hardworking, law-abiding citizens who've never broken a law in their lives Americans because they disagree with his plan to ban hunting rifles. Will he stop dividing to distract and start going after the real criminals?
The length to which the Leader of the Opposition will go to try and pretend that he is not in the pocket of the NRA is quite humorous. The reality is the talking points they put out there are completely disconnected from any reality. 3 years ago, we made the decision to render assault-style weapons in this country, weapons designed to kill the largest number of people as quickly as possible, illegal in our communities. We banned them from being bought, sold, or used. This is what we are continuing with. This is what he stands against.
Is he put all the resources into going after licensed, law-abiding, trained and tested firearms owners who are statistically the least likely people to commit a crime. Meanwhile, he has turned loose onto our streets repeat violent offenders who have committed literally dozens of violent offenses. In Vancouver, under his bail regime, the same 40 people had to be arrested 6,000 times. That is what he has brought to our streets. Crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder. Why won't he start going after the real criminals with a common sense Justin Blair?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister from the top, please. 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 From the top, please.
Mr. Speaker, you cannot be serious about keeping our communities safe if you stand against gun control. And that's consistently what the Conservatives have done by spreading misinformation and disinformation.
This is all so much of a circus, a play acted out by grown-ups to convince a country that, well, we're there for you. That's why, the Speaker says, take it from the top. Here we go.
Keeping Canadians safe requires a multifaceted approach. It means investing more in CBDC, which has cut more than in half the number of double the number of interdicted guns coming across the border.
Oh, yeah. When you learn something, you memorize it verbatim. Sometimes you got so much that you can make a mistake. I remember this when I was in real estate. Gosh, I can't believe how many decades ago that was. But we had to learn a proper introduction when we were going out to look for houses to list. How you introduce yourself. It's all a scam. It's a scam except where you get honest people speaking out. As a matter of fact, I'm going to play a little bit of scam from today's Parliament. This is the 3rd of May. I only recorded the audio because I happen to be sitting right here. And it's just a friggin' joke. And to think I used to get all worked up over this kind of BS. I mean, very well done. Very well done by governments and their propaganda tools. That, how they can distract people on different issues that are insignificant. Insignificant. Gun rules. You don't want to have assault rifles? Give a definition, not just because it looks like that. You could have a pellet gun that looks like an assault rifle. So give a definition of what an assault rifle is, and that it's used in war to kill isn't a good enough definition. But is it the magazine? Does it hold too many bullets? Is it the semi-auto nature of it? What? And the fact is, you know, I know that the criminals won't be turning their guns in. It won't. Nothing's going to change because society is rotten from the inside out. And inside means the people at the top, whether it's commercially or politically or anything. You know, the top people have created this situation, and now they are getting scared because it would appear that there are threats of harm to the politicians. Jesus, God, I don't know why. How the hell can that happen with all the security measures and all the not wiretapping, that's old. You know, with them listening to everything, knowing everything about a person. Well, I think they're going to have more digital ID. It's going to have to be, you know, facial recognition, voice, you name it. We're going to need more security to keep the bad people away. But the bad people are right in our parliament, right in the midst of us. And that isn't going to change peacefully.
I just want to remind all the members in the House that when they're asking questions or answering them, to try to be respectful to each other. Opposition, please continue.
The question was for the Prime Minister, and he should have the courage to stand up and answer it. The former head of CSIS indicates that a briefing note with explosive revelations about a threat against the family of a member of Parliament would have been brought to the Prime Minister's top advisors, and his top advisor says everything is brought to him. It is impossible to believe that he was not made aware of these threats 2 years ago when they were documented by his own intelligence service.
The thing to take note of there is that Skippy, as he was known when he was with Harper, is talking about something that took place 2 years ago. Oh my God, it took place 2 years ago. That's a lot longer than, you know, Trudeau's Christmas holidays or New Year's holiday. That was a big issue. And what about the gun? Oh man, they are stringing people along, and that's sad to see because they have already, think about it, they have already destroyed what was Canada. What Canada was like in the 70s, 80s, 90s even. You know, we weren't perfect, but I think a lot of people of age would agree that things were a lot better back than they are now. And I don't look to our conservatives for any rescue from the Liberals. They're the same thing, different cloth. But there are exceptions out in our world. Viktor Orban, Prime Minister of Hungary, is a big exception. I've talked about him a lot on my other channel. And now Italy's new Prime Minister, she's amazing. And it's a populist view. That's what we need, is populists. Not these old parties that should be extinct like dinosaurs.
And the future of the West is in grave doubt. We in the West have not faced a crisis like this for a long time. The ideological wars of the 20th century against the totalitarian powers of Nazi Germany and Soviet Union were terrible. But democratic West rallied and defeated them both. Now the West is at war with itself. We have seen what kind of future the globalist ruling class has to offer. But we have a different future in mind. The globalists can all go to hell. I have come to Texas.
I entirely agree with Yoram's views on the need to put conservatism back into its traditional sphere of national identity. The great challenge facing us today is defending national identity and the very existence of the nation states as the sole means of safeguarding people's sovereignty and freedom. This is why I find the title of Yoram's latest book, The Virtue of Nationalism, so effective, because in a few words, it clearly sums up the fact that our worldview is the exact opposite to what they would like to force on us. It is in this same spirit that today Fratelli d'Italia is fighting for a Europe of free and sovereign nations, as a serious alternative to the bureaucratic superstate that has been gradually foisted on us since Maastricht onwards, following the rationale of the external constraint, whereby there is always someone who claims the right to take decisions in place of the sovereign peoples and the national governments. It means that, whether the false Democrats like it or not, national conservatives in every latitude are actually the only real Democrats, because it is only by defending the nation state that we defend the political sovereignty that belongs to the citizens of that state. I believe that it is not difficult for the conservative world to identify the substance with which we want to fill our democracies. We do not need the ideological indoctrination manuals that are so dear to the left. Our vision of values and our worldview is actually quite simple. The real reason people are conservatives is that they are attached to the things they love. John Paul's second patriotism also enabled him to view today's historical events in the light of a Christian realism shorn of all rhetoric, as in the case of immigration. He considered that the right to immigrate had to be preceded first and foremost by a right not to immigrate, to live in peace and dignity in one's homeland. Christian patriot, also critic of mass immigration. When you think about that, today John Paul II would be on the European Union's blacklist as a dangerous subversive, but not for us. I was very impressed by the metaphor Reagan used to describe the conservative movement as a three-legged stool. Without any one of these three legs, the stool will collapse. And the three legs are defense, fiscal, social. Defense, first leg, is a patriotic soul. Today would be called sovereignist. Means the defense of national interest and popular sovereignty. The second leg is economic freedom, which means also a just relationship between government and taxpayers. A great lesson of conservative thought is that an oppressive tax system not only limits free enterprise, production, consumption, but it also destroys the covenant between the state and citizens, because over-taxation forces the state to build up a system of controls similar to that of the totalitarian regimes, restricting individual freedoms, weakening the economic as a whole. Free enterprise, lower taxes, less bureaucracy, public investment in infrastructures, the defense of national interests. This is the recipe with which President Trump today is making the American economy soar. And it is the recipe that we would like to bring to Italy and to Europe as an alternative to the blind austerity that Germany wanted and which so far has only benefited Germany and the big financial speculators. And the third leg is the social soul, to protect religious and moral values, the noblest purpose of all political action. These values and principles are found in the three concepts of today's meeting: God, freedom, nation, or in the Italian formula to which I am very attached: God, homeland, and family. One of the founding values of conservative movements is the defense of natural family. They would like us to give up defending the family, considering it to be an archaic and backward concept to be superseded. They would like to convince us that a family is any emotional bond between sentient beings, that it is a sign of great civil and moral progress to pay a poor mother to keep her child in her womb for 9 months and then snatch it from her arms to give it away to whoever has bought it. We reject all this without a moment's hesitation, even though today it is considered highly scandalous and even revolutionary to say that a family is made up of a man and a woman and any son they may have. They are creating a world of alleged individual rights and formal freedom. In theory, we are free to do anything we like, or almost. Free to take drugs, free to have an abortion, free to take the lives of human beings suffering from serious illnesses and therefore defenseless. Only rights, and few, if at all, duties. Free indeed, but never free for the sake of something, for fulfilling a life project. Free indeed, but fenced in within a predetermined enclosure, because if you dare try to clamber over it, you are censored by the new Menlo Park high priests of the only school of thought allowed. So our task is to counter this drift and reaffirm that the nation is the place where our values are safeguarded and transmitted, renewed every day as the common sense of the people, forging an identity that is the greatest treasure in the world. Our opponents, they paint us as obtuse nationalists, in love with autarky, rejecting any dialogue, ready to wage war on the slyest pretext. But that is not the case. The sovereignty of nation is not out to destroy Europe. It wants to build the true, real Europe of peoples and identities, not the abstract Europe decided in dark rooms by technocrats. It does not want to impose its own interests at the expense of other nation states. When Trump says America first, or we say Italian first, it certainly means defending the national economic interests of those countries. But as conservatives, I think we have to focus above all on the world of high finance and the great economic powers that are imposing their will on the nation states. As I say it, the message our homeland first means reaffirming the primacy of the real economy over the financial economy and popular sovereignty over supranational national entities with no democratic legitimacy. Modern national conservatism defends the identities of nations as the basis for the new forms of cooperation. That is why, while defending the Italian sovereignty, we cannot forget to defend Viktor Orban's Hungary or Kaczynski's Poland, once again under attack from the European progressive mainstream. That is why we defend, without the shameful ambiguity typical of the left, the right of the State of Israel to its security and future and peace and prosperity. Our patriotism is the will to defend our homelands from the great challenges of our age. It is much more than a choice of political positioning. It is taking up a firm stand and choosing side. I have an image in mind. President Ronald Reagan and Pope John Paul II walking in the gardens of the president's residence in Florida back in 1987. It is the image of two great men walking together along the path of history in that brief period in the 20th century that was to change the world very shortly thereafter, thanks also to them with the collapse of communism. Remembering them here today, it is not simply to pay tribute to them. It is a warning, a commitment not to betray their dream of freedom, which is our dream of freedom too. Thank you.